guys, it's Emma and I'm back today for you with another video, and we are doing my November 2022 wrap up. I only read 7 books in November. Honestly, we are lucky that that number is higher than only 3, okay? Because it looked pretty bleak there for a while. I'm not gonna lie, November was kind of a slow reading month for me. A lot of shit was just going on, particularly with school, because the school semester is winding down. I have my finals in a couple days. It's just a lot, okay? So I thought we could unwind by just recounting what we read together in November, okay? So while I talk about the stack of books that I have right here, why don't you guys go down to the comments below and tell me what y'all read in November, whether or not you read the same books as me, whether you think that some of the books that you read I might like, everything of the sorts, okay? So with that being said, let's just jump right the hell into it. Okay, do y'all like my nails? I love my nails. Okay, anyway, not the point. The first book that I read in the month of November was The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, Lord. This I gave 3 stars to. This is about a girl named Dika who is living in a world where girls are majorly oppressed, and they are basically put through this ceremony where they are bled, and if they bleed red blood then they are normal, and if they bleed gold blood then they are considered demons and they are outcast. And Dika is almost about to be outcast because she herself bleeds gold blood when she is basically transcripted into this experimental army by the emperor of this land made up of all girls who bleed gold. And because they have this gold blood, they also have these supernatural abilities such as super strength, healing at just insane speeds. They can't really die. So it's basically all about Dika and the friends that she meets along the way uncovering all of these really insidious secrets that this empire is hiding from them while she's in the service of the leader of this empire, the emperor himself. I loved the first half of it. The first half of it was amazing. But then the second half just kind of lost me a little bit. Some of the messaging was a little bit on the nose, which, you know, isn't that big of a deal, but it was something that I noticed. The writing itself is very fast. It is very easy to speed through this. I did. Just the world building also was a little lackluster for me personally. The most minute things were detailed, but the places themselves weren't as detailed, so it was hard for me to be able to visualize exactly where we were. I'm not going to continue the series. I would say that this probably could stand as a standalone, but with that in mind, I will say that if you're going to read this as a standalone, you have to be in mind of the fact that this is not a standalone, okay? So if it speeds up a little at the end and it seems a little rushed, that is why. The next book that I read for November was The Dragon's Bride by Katee Robert. I also gave this 3 stars. This was okay. I liked it enough. This was a monster lover's romance where this woman, she signs a deal with a demon in order to basically get away from her abusive husband, and in doing so she is basically now in a contract to live with this dragon lord who will take care of her and be her husband for 7 years, and then her contract is up. And so it's all about the girl named Briar and the dragon kind of like coming to terms with one another and sprouting a romance. It's not my favorite Katee Robert book that I've ever read, but it's definitely not my least favorite by any means of the word. I wasn't aware that there was a breeding kink thing in this, like at all. So that kind of threw me for a loop. The only reason why I didn't, I guess, like, get the ick from that was because I kind of understood it, you know, like just in context that the book gives you. So lower your voice, I understand. I also wasn't a fan of their communication. It was a little bit too much of just, you know, expecting one another to talk, but then when one doesn't, the other decides not to talk either. It's just like, y'all, just talk. Damn, all right? I guarantee you that a lot of the problems in that book would have been solved had they just, I don't know, opened their mouths and spoke words at one another. I don't know. Work with me here, okay? So, The Dragon's Bride, I liked it. It was a good monster lovers romance. I would say the sex scenes in there were amazing. They were amazing. All right, I'm sorry. Katee Robert is literally my favorite smut writer. I think that she writes sex scenes incredibly efficiently. I probably will continue the series just plainly because I hear that there's a gargoyle in one of the next books, and homegirl Wattpad prepared me for the gargoyle smut. Okay, I'm here for it. The next book that I read for the month of November was Within the Fog by Charles Welch. It's following this family, really, and a few other people that live in this more modern town in our time. And this fog encroaches on this town, basically covers the entirety of it, and then people are getting killed left and right. I gave this 1 star. The typos. Oh wow, the typos. I'm someone where if I notice typos, I will never, ever be able to unnotice them. This book is another prime example of why I hate children in survival aspects. I just could not stand some of the people in this book. It was just absolutely ridiculous. It felt like a bunch of other pieces of horror media that I've consumed before wrapped into one. It felt like The Mist, it felt like 30 Days of Night, and then the ending to me felt a lot like Sour Candy did. And I wasn't really a fan of any of those. Even the chapter headings, like even the table of contents was off. I was like, what is this? I would say it is pretty up there on the horror factor. It was very creepy. I'm not dissing it on the horror factor at all. I'm just dissing it on the fact that it includes horrifically dumbass characters and an abhorrent amount of typos. The next book that I read was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. This follows Dani, who is the second oldest Brown sister, I believe, and she is a PhD. She's working at this university, and this security guard who also works at the same university, his name is Saphir, and they both get into a situation where a bunch of people now think that they're dating, and this rumor that they're dating is really beneficial to the both of them for both of their respective reputations, and so they decide to fake date one another, and you know, feelings may or may not expand upon that. I gave this 4 stars. I loved it. I really did enjoy it. It's not my favorite. I liked Get a Life, Chloe Brown a little bit better. Fake dating, I've realized, is just not my trope. I'm not really a fan of it. I think that's why I didn't give it 5 stars. Also, the pop culture references, I'm just not a fan of pop culture references in general. I think it dates your book, which I think can be, in a way, hindering to some stories, but I do not think it was as hindering to Take a Hint, Dani Brown. However, it was something that I noticed, and it was something that kind of just like took me out of the story a little bit. I liked that it followed Dani. I liked that we got some bisexual rep. I liked the growth that both of them went through, and just, yeah, I think this is a really solid romance book, especially those steamy scenes. However, I think that it is in fact a crime against humanity, considering how few steamy scenes between Zephyr and Dani that we actually got. Talia Hibbert, how much money can I pay you? How much money? Shout out to Talia Hibbert right here and right now. How much money can I pay you to write more Dani and Zephyr steamy scenes? I'm begging you, please. The next book that we have is another one of the lowest rated books of this month, and it's such a shame because look at this cover. Look at this cover. Are you kidding me? This vibrant ass, headache-inducing blue with these gaudy ass lipstick shades and this golden bullet with the white lettering. I love this. I love contrasting shit. I love it so much. This is about a woman named Sophie who moves from Chicago to Mapleton, Texas, I believe. in order to basically quiet down with her son and her husband. And while she's in Mapleton, she makes friends with this group of women called the Hunting Wives, who basically go out to the leader of the clique's lake house, and they drink and they shoot guns, which is a very tumultuous pairing, you would think, and you would be correct, because not only do they do this, but they also go out and party hardy. One day, a teenage girl ends up dead, and the suspicion falls on the Hunting Wives. So it's basically all about them trying to solve who actually killed this girl. Wow. I also gave this 1 star. Sophie, what a torturous person to have to read about. She made dumbass decisions left and right. You couldn't tell this girl anything. She was absolutely set in her ways, and she made decision after decision after decision, and then was aghast, dumbfounded, one might say, when the consequences of her actions, of said decisions, came back to bite her in the ass. The only really positive thing I can say about this book is that the writing was very, very fast. However, it could not have been fast enough. The cheating in here is abundant. I wasn't expecting it, let alone the fact that most of the cheating of these 30-something-year-old women, keep that in mind, is done with 18-year-old boys.
I beg your pardon?
Why was that necessary? You know, what? You couldn't have him cheat with older men? Men, I don't know, their age? Very, very weird. Not my favorite book in the slightest. And again, it is such a shame because I love this cover. This cover has to be my favorite of any book that I've ever read. And it's sad that I can't pay homage to it because the subject in the book sucks. The next book that I read is probably my favorite book that I read throughout the entire month, and that is Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. This is about the Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. In the 1920s, it was discovered that the reservation that the Osage people were living on had this gigantic deposit of incredibly valuable minerals underneath it. And so the miners that came in to excavate said minerals had to pay the Osage royalties. Therefore, the Osage people became one of the richest people per capita in the world, all right? So rich, they sent their kids to private schools in Europe, and they also rode around in chauffeured cars, all right? While this was going on, a lot of prominent Osage members started to be killed off. And there was such a big uproar about it because nobody could figure out what the hell was going on because the town was so corrupt that they were like, hey, we need help here. Meanwhile, J. Edgar Hoover, the leader of what would be the most prominent organization in our country's history, was like, okay, the FBI is just starting out. We need we need a beneficial story here. We need something to save our asses. So he sent a lot of agents to the Osage territory to figure out what the hell was happening. This book is one I think everybody should read. Okay, it deals with an egregious amount of just aggravating history that in fact made me so fucking angry to read about. I hope that not only at the end of this wrap up, but at the end of other videos where I recommend this in the future, that people will want to read this, that I can recommend this enough to people that will read this in order to where the history of not only our country, but the history of the Osage people in particular will not slip away, okay? Because this is... It was horrifying to have to read about this, okay? But I do think it is something that everybody should read. I think it was written phenomenally in order for people to understand it, and the chronological order is very easy to follow. And there's also pictures in here, okay? I think it's a really informative read. It's a fast read. It's a very interesting read. Just the only thing I can say over and over again is that I think it's a book that everybody should read. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved this. And then the last book that I read was Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This is about a group of women who have gone into this domain, basically, called Area X, that has been walled off from the rest of humanity because it is a growing phenomenon that this organization really doesn't know what the hell's going on. So they sent recon team after recon team after recon team in to find out what the hell's going on. And the newest recon team that they've sent in consists of these 5 women that we follow. None of them have names. They are only known by their occupations: the biologist, the surveyor, the psychologist, the linguist, and the anthropologist. We follow the biologist. She might be an unreliable narrator to some people who really like unreliable narrators. And yeah, we follow them as they try to figure out what's going on with this area, and we follow what happens to them in gruesome and horrifying detail. I gave this book 4 stars. This is another amazing sci-fi book that I read. Just the body horror in this book, the imagery, the writing in here is some of the most eerie that I've ever read. I would say, again, that if you're looking for more body horror sci-fi, definitely pick this up, okay? I actually want to read the next 2. I'm hoping that it's not as bad as everybody's saying it is, but that will all be for the future to decide. Nevertheless, I loved this book. Like I said, the writing was incredibly intriguing. It was kind of like tender as the flesh in the way that it kind of lures you along, being like, yeah, all of this horrific stuff is happening, but you want to know what happens next, honeycomb. It's kind of open-ended, which I normally am not a fan of. However, the way that it was done was incredibly chilling. So I really liked it, and it honestly makes me want to watch the movie. So you guys, those were all the books that I read in November. I hope that you enjoyed. I really hope that you will pick some of them up, i.e., thank you very much. So guys, with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you will continue to look out for more videos on my channel, that you guys are staying safe, and last but not least, that you guys have a good rest of your day.